My name is Nora Caldwell, and I was 32 the year I learned what a manila folder could do to a family. My grandmother turned 79 on a Saturday in October. She baked her own cake, vanilla with buttercream roses, her specialty since before I was born. She set the table for 8, paper napkins, the good plates, dried hydrangeas from her garden. Nobody came. My parents were skiing in Aspen. My brother sent a text at 4:15. Happy B-Day, Gran. Skiing is amazing. My mother posted a ski goggle selfie to her church group chat with the word blessed. I drove 3 hours from Hartford after my shift and found her sitting alone in the kitchen. Candles melted down to the frosting, the ice cream gone soft. She looked at me like she wasn't sure I was real. I cut her a slice, I sang. The next morning, 2 strangers knocked on her door and handed me a folder, sealed, thick, signed in my grandmother's own handwriting. What happened after that ended my family as I knew it. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories, where ordinary people set quiet boundaries that change everything, and dignity always gets the last word. That evening stays pressed into me like a thumbprint in wet clay. 8 place settings, a centerpiece of dried hydrangeas. The cake in the middle, vanilla buttercream roses, 79 spelled in pink gel, candles burned to waxy nubs, a gallon of Neapolitan sweating through its carton onto the tablecloth. She was sitting at the head of the table in her lavender cardigan, hands folded around a glass of water. Nora, she smiled then frowned. Is it Tuesday? It's Saturday, Gran. Your birthday. She touched the cake. I thought I was making this for the church bake sale. We ate cake with our hands because neither of us felt like washing forks. I sang happy birthday twice because halfway through the first time she asked me to start over. At 10, I carried her to bed. She weighed nothing. As I pulled the quilt to her chin, she grabbed my hand. Her eyes went sharp, focused, like a radio catching a signal through static. They think I don't notice, she whispered. Then she was already asleep. I should tell you who I am in this family. The Caldwells of Briarwood are a particular kind of Connecticut comfortable. My father managed regional accounts until he could golf 3 times a week and call it consulting. My mother organized charity galas and sat on the library board. My brother Aaron ran a small development firm and owned a German sedan that cost more than my annual salary. Then there was me, the paralegal. I worked at a 4-person elder law firm in Hartford. Wills, trusts, guardianship filings. $47,000 a year, studying for the bar at night. My family called me the paperwork one. At holiday dinners, Diane would tilt her head and say Nora is still doing her little legal assistant thing, like I was selling friendship bracelets at a farmer's market. But this house was mine in every way that mattered. I took my first steps on the kitchen linoleum. Lorraine taught me to read a lease on the back porch when I was 19. She co-signed my first apartment because my parents wouldn't. I slept in the guest room that night. Around midnight, I got up for water. On the hallway shelf behind a framed family photo, I found a business card. Brenda Voss, Voss and Dean Realty. On the back in pencil, comp value $680,000, quick close possible. I put the card back. My hands were steady, but my stomach wasn't. Sunday morning at 10:15, someone knocked. 2 people on the porch. A woman, 60, silver bob, wool coat, leather briefcase. A man carrying a notary seal. Nora Caldwell, the woman said. My name is Ruth Adler. Your grandmother retained my firm 14 months ago. She held out a manila folder, thick sealed, my grandmother's name on the tab in blue ink. She asked us to deliver this to you personally. When the time came. When the time came for what? Ruth glanced through the screen door toward the recliner. Come to my office when you're ready. And don't discuss this with your parents before we talk. They were in their car before I could form a second question. My phone buzzed. A text from Diane, who is at the door. Don't sign anything, Nora. I brought the folder inside. Lorraine's signature crossed the seal, every curve deliberate. The capital L with its exaggerated tail. The double loop on the lowercase r. This wasn't a shaky mark. This was written by a woman who knew exactly what she was putting her name on. I broke the seal. Inside, a recorded deed, a trust instrument, a durable power of attorney, notarized witness pages, a physician's letter on medical letterhead dated 14 months ago. Clipped to the front, a handwritten note on cream paper and blue ink. Nora, when they come for the house, open this. Everything you need is here. I love you. I'm sorry. It has to be you. I read it 3 times. Each time the words when they come landed harder. Not if, when, she'd known. I found the rest while taking out the recycling Monday morning. A lockbox clamped to the gas meter behind the hydrangea bushes. A listing sheet in the mail pile. Off-market, Voss and Dean Realty letterhead. 4 bedrooms, $680,000. $50,000 under the most recent neighborhood comp. And in the kitchen junk drawer, a purchase agreement unsigned but filled in. Buyer, Stonewall Capital Group LLC, cash offer, 30-day close. Seller's representative listed on the agreement. Aaron Caldwell, my brother. I sat on the kitchen floor and spread the pages around me, the lockbox, the listing sheet, the purchase agreement. A sticky note in Diane's handwriting. Closing target, November 15th, 3 weeks away. I called my mother that evening. Oh, Nora. Her voice had that specific warmth she used on parish volunteers and restaurant hostesses. Bright, managing. We had the most wonderful time in Aspen. There's a lockbox on her gas meter. Silence. 2 seconds. 3. Sweetheart, that's being handled. Dad and Aaron have been working with a lovely agent on a transition plan for your grandmother. You know she can't keep up this big house on her own. She doesn't know the house is being sold, does she? She knows what she needs to know. Aaron's company is in a difficult stretch. The house can fund a proper care facility for Gran and help your brother through a rough patch. It's the responsible thing. It's her house, Mom. Nora, the register dropped, all the way to cold. Final. Your grandmother has dementia. She is not the person who should be making decisions about a $680,000 asset. Then she said it. She won't remember the house by Christmas. The line hummed between us. Then it's a good thing I remember, I said. I hung up. Ruth Adler's office was on the second floor of a converted brownstone on Asylum Avenue. She met me in a conference room with a pot of Earl Grey and a box of tissues she placed exactly between us on the table without comment. Your grandmother came to me 14 months ago, she began. Early August. She'd gotten disoriented driving, ended up 2 towns over. A neighbor brought her back. She called me the next morning. She was sharp, focused. Ruth paused, scared. Of what? Of exactly what's happening now. She told me, my son will do whatever Diane tells him, and Diane will sell the house the minute I can't stop her. She wanted to stop it before she couldn't. Ruth walked me through it piece by piece. Item 1, a revocable living trust. Lorraine had transferred the house into the Lorraine E. Caldwell Revocable Living Trust, dated August 9th of last year. She was the trustee while she had capacity. I was the successor trustee. If she became incapacitated, legal control of the house passed to me. Not my father, not Aaron, me. Item 2. A durable power of attorney, naming me as Lorraine's agent for all financial and healthcare decisions, with a durability clause that activated when she got sick, not expired. Item 3. The physician's letter. Dr. Mercer had examined Lorraine on August 9th and documented full testamentary capacity. She understood what a trust was. She understood she was placing her house beyond the reach of anyone except the granddaughter she trusted. Then Ruth leaned forward. If your family has had your grandmother sign anything recently, a new power of attorney, a listing agreement, while she lacked capacity, those documents may not be enforceable. I found what they'd had her sign in the bottom of the hallway credenza, behind a stack of old guideposts magazines. A power of attorney dated September 3rd, naming Gregory Caldwell as Lorraine's agent for all financial and property decisions. Stapled to it, a listing authorization granting Aaron the right to act as seller's representative. The signature differences hit me before I finished unfolding the pages. Lorraine's trust documents from 14 months ago, strong pen pressure, clean loops, every letter connecting with that distinctive tail on the capital L. The September power of attorney, trembling lines, the L barely rising above the baseline. The loops collapsed. The pen had lifted between letters, leaving gaps where there should have been flow. This was not the hand of a woman who understood what she was signing. This was the hand of a woman who was told where to press down. I checked the calendar. September 3rd was the same week Lorraine had been taken to the ER after a fall. I'd received a text from Diane. Gran took a tumble. Nothing serious. She's resting. The discharge summary, buried in the mail pile, noted patient disoriented, intermittent confusion, recommend neurological follow-up. They'd had her sign a power of attorney during the same week she'd been hospitalized for confusion. I took photos of everything. Then I called Ruth. Ruth came to the house on Friday, not her office. The house, she said it mattered that we do this at Lorraine's kitchen table. She laid 5 documents in a row on the maple surface, edges aligned. The recorded trust deed, filed August 12th. The durable POA naming me. Dr. Mercer's capacity evaluation letter. The September power of attorney with the shaking signature, and the listing agreement with Aaron's name as seller's representative. The house has been in the trust for over a year, Ruth said. The September power of attorney, even if it were valid, doesn't grant authority over trust assets, and it almost certainly isn't valid. She looked at me. This sale cannot close. The house was never theirs to sell. We made a plan, quiet, methodical. Built on paper, not anger, I filed a report with Adult Protective Services. Day 1 of 9. The intake worker was patient, precise, and completely unsurprised. She'd heard it before. Different names, same architecture. I flagged the November 15th closing date. She said she'd mark it time sensitive. That same day, I discovered they'd restricted Lorraine's medical records. My father had been named designated family contact 6 weeks earlier, right after they'd had her sign the power of attorney. Ruth filed a HIPAA authorization under the original durable POA, which predated theirs. 2 days later, I had the records. Dr. Mercer agreed to perform a current evaluation. Aaron came Wednesday. He walked in without knocking, helped himself to a LaCroix, and leaned against the counter like he owned the place. I know about the listing. His LaCroix paused halfway to his mouth. 1 beat. 2. Then the smile adjusted. Look, the company's in a rough patch. I've got a balloon payment coming due in 8 weeks. $740,000. If I miss it, the bank takes everything. So you're selling Gran's house. I'm helping the family manage an asset Gran can't manage herself. He stepped closer. Don't make this difficult. We're family. Family helps family. Is that what you told her when you brought the papers? He stared at me. Then the smile came back, harder, performative. It's basically sold already, Nora. The closing's set. He left his empty can on the counter and walked out without rinsing it. On day 5, I bought a cake. 6-inch round from the bakery on Elm, vanilla with buttercream. 1 candle because 79 individual candles seemed like a fire hazard and I wanted to make her laugh. I set it on the kitchen table at 3 in the afternoon. 2 plates, 2 forks, 2 napkins. Made tea. Gran, come sit. She shuffled in from the living room, crossword folded in her cardigan pocket. She saw the cake and stopped. Whose birthday? Yours. We're doing it over, she sat. I lit the candle. She looked at the flame the way you look at something you're trying to hold in your mind carefully. Make a wish. She closed her eyes. She blew. The candle went out on the first try. What did you wish for? She looked at me with those clear creek eyes. I wished you'd stay. We ate cake with forks this time. She told me about the hydrangeas she'd planted along the front walk in 1987, the year I was born. She told me the kitchen table came from her mother's house in Bridgeport, carried in on the back of a pickup truck in 1974, and that every scratch on its surface was a Thanksgiving she'd won. Then she put her fork down and leaned toward me. Don't let them take the table. Quiet. Fierce. I won't, Gran. The table stays. On day 8, everything was in place. Ruth would attend the closing with certified copies of the recorded trust deed, the durable POA, and the physician's capacity evaluation. The title officer was Linda Yates, 22 years in the business. Ruth's contact had quietly shared something. Linda had flagged the file 3 weeks earlier when the preliminary title search showed the house held in trust. She'd contacted Brenda Voss for clarification. Brenda had sent over a signed affidavit claiming the trust had been dissolved and the property reconveyed to Lorraine individually. That was a lie. The deed was still recorded. The closing was standing on cracked ice. All it needed was someone to put the original documents on the table. The night before, I sat with Lorraine in the living room. She was having a good hour, working her crossword with a ballpoint pen because she said pencils were for people who didn't trust themselves. Gran, tomorrow's going to be a big day. 7 across. Legal instrument of protection. 5 letters, I smiled. Trust. She wrote it in. Smarty pants. Then she reached into her cardigan pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. For Nora, the keeper of the table. Below it, her signature. Not the strong one from last year. Not the broken one from September. A middle ground, trembling but intentional. Written by a woman who knew she was fading and wanted to leave one more mark. I'm not gone yet, she said. I folded the note into my wallet. Capital Title Services occupied a single-story brick building on Main Street. I parked across the street at 1:45. Ruth pulled in beside me at 1:50. We walked in together. Ruth carried her briefcase. I carried the manila folder. Conference room B. 10 chairs around an oval table. Linda Yates arranging documents at the head of the table. She looked up when we entered, glanced at Ruth, and paused for half a second. The kind of pause that meant she recognized the name. Miss Adler, I didn't see your firm listed on the transaction. I represent the Lorraine E. Caldwell Revocable Living Trust. We have documents relevant to this closing. Linda Yates's pen stopped moving. The door opened behind us. Diane came in first. Cashmere blazer, church pearls, smile already in position. Aaron behind her, in a tailored sport coat. Gregory trailing, gray-faced, looking at the floor. Then Brenda Voss with her stack of closing documents fanned like a winning hand of cards. And last, Daniel Fossey, the buyer's representative, navy suit, no-nonsense expression. Diane saw me and stopped. Nora. She looked at Ruth at the folder in my hands. Her smile didn't change, but the muscles underneath it did. What are you doing here, taking a seat? I sat down. Ruth sat beside me. I placed the manila folder in front of me and waited. The room was very quiet. Ruth opened her briefcase and laid 3 items on the table, one at a time, each centered and square. First, the certified copy of the recorded trust deed, filed August 12th of last year, transferring the property at 14 Oakwood Lane into the Lorraine E. Caldwell Revocable Living Trust. Ms. Caldwell is the successor trustee. Diane's smile fell not all at once, in stages like a building losing floors. Second, the durable power of attorney naming me as Lorraine's agent, currently in effect. Aaron leaned forward. We have a more recent power of attorney that supersedes. Third, Ruth placed the physician's letter on the table. A capacity evaluation by Dr. Mercer dated August 9th confirming full testamentary capacity, and Dr. Mercer's current evaluation, completed last week, confirming that Lorraine now lacks capacity, meaning any documents signed after her cognitive decline, including the September power of attorney, were signed without the legal competence required to make them binding. The room went still. Linda Yates picked up the trust deed. She read it. She compared it to the title report. She looked at Brenda Voss. Ms. Voss, you informed me the trust had been dissolved. Brenda's face went white. The trust was never dissolved, Ruth said. The recorded deed confirms it. This property belongs to the trust. The sale cannot proceed. Linda Yates set the documents down, squared her shoulders, and said the 5 words that ended it. I cannot close this transaction. Daniel Fossey closed his portfolio and walked out. Brenda gathered her things without making eye contact with anyone. Aaron gripped the armrests until his knuckles blanched, and Diane looked at me like I'd pulled the house out from under her feet. This is ridiculous. Her voice climbed. She stood, palms flat on the table, pearls swinging. Nora is a paralegal. She has no authority. My husband is Lorraine's son, her only child. A power of attorney signed by a woman who was hospitalized for confusion the same week, Ruth said, without a capacity evaluation, and one that, even if valid, does not grant authority over assets held in trust. Aaron stood now, raw, not theatrical. I have a $740,000 payment due in 6 weeks if this deal falls through. Caldwell, your financial obligations are not this office's concern, Linda Yates said. Aaron turned on me. You're going to destroy this family. I kept my voice at exactly the volume I'd practiced. Conversational, steady. You tried to sell a 79-year-old woman's home while she sat alone on her birthday eating cake nobody came to cut. You had her sign documents during a hospital stay. You lied to the title company about a dissolved trust, and you're telling me I'm the one destroying this family? Aaron's mouth opened, closed. Diane was crying, loud and messy. After everything I've done. Gregory sat motionless. He stared at the trust deed, at his mother's signature, and I could see him doing the math. She'd planned this. She'd gone around him. She'd looked at her only son and decided he wasn't enough. For the record, Ruth said into the quiet, an adult protective services investigation into the financial exploitation of Lorraine Caldwell is currently active. The September power of attorney will be formally challenged. Any further attempts to sell, encumber, or transfer trust property without the trustee's authorization will be treated as a legal matter. Diane stopped crying, the tears still wet but the expression underneath shifting. You'll regret this. When Aaron loses his company, when your father has nowhere to turn, when this family falls apart, you'll remember that you did this. I stood. I picked up the manila folder and placed it in my bag. I looked at her, at the cashmere, the pearls, the tears deployed like weather. You don't get to decide what she's worth, I said. Then I turned to Linda Yates. Thank you for your professionalism. Miss Caldwell, Linda nodded. I'll be documenting this closing as void and flagging the file. You'll receive confirmation by email. I walked out of conference room B. Ruth followed. Nathan held the door. The November air hit my face cold and clean, and I stood on the sidewalk for 10 full seconds before I remembered to breathe. I drove back to Oakwood Lane with the folder on the passenger seat, exactly where the gas station bouquet had been 9 days ago. The house was still there, the hydrangeas along the front walk, the porch light on. I went inside and found Lorraine asleep in her recliner, crossword in her lap, reading glasses on. I knelt beside her chair and tucked the quilt around her shoulders. It's done, Gran. The house is safe, she stirred. Her hand found mine. Her eyes opened, cloudy, then clearing for just a moment. Did you keep the table? I laughed. A real one. The kind that comes up from somewhere deep and surprises you. I kept the table. She smiled. Small, certain. Good girl. She closed her eyes. Here's what happened after. Aaron's balloon payment came due 8 weeks later, right on schedule. He missed it. Aaron Caldwell Properties filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in January. He sold the German sedan. Last I heard, he was working as a project manager for someone else's firm. He never called to apologize. Diane, standing in Briarwood, fractured slowly, the way reputations erode in small towns. The church group chat went quiet around her. She and Gregory moved to a condo in West Hartford in the spring. My father emailed me once in March. 3 sentences. I should have done more. I know that now. I'm sorry. I read it twice. I didn't respond. Some apologies are too late to be anything but a record of what a person knows they should have said. APS substantiated the complaint. Through 2 probate hearings that no one in my family contested, the September power of attorney was formally voided. The court appointed me as Lorraine's legal guardian and confirmed my role as permanent trustee. I deferred my bar exam. I took a leave of absence. I moved into the guest room at 14 Oakwood Lane, the one with the ceiling crack I'd traced since I was 6. And I became the person who made sure Lorraine Caldwell ate dinner, took her medication, and sat on the porch in the afternoons when the light came through the hydrangeas. On a Tuesday in April, I baked a cake, vanilla with buttercream. I set it on the kitchen table, the one from Bridgeport, the one that had survived 50 years of Thanksgivings and 1 attempted theft. Lorraine came in from the living room, crossword in hand. Whose birthday? Nobody's. It's Tuesday. We're having cake because it's Tuesday. She sat down. She picked up a fork. She took a bite and closed her eyes. This is my recipe, she said. It is good. She took another bite. Don't change it. We ate in the kitchen with the afternoon light striping through the window. The prism still hung above the sink, throwing small rainbows across the floor. The table held. A person's worth doesn't expire when their memory does. And the quietest love in a family is sometimes the only one keeping watch. That's my story. 1 empty party, 1 manila folder, and a grandmother who remembered first. If this reminded you to check on a loved one's directives, do it today. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.